The awakening. The mark had been silent for 7 years. Celeste Thorne pressed her fingertips against the crescent-shaped brand beneath her collarbone, feeling nothing but the familiar ridge of scar tissue through the thin fabric of her work shirt. It had stopped burning the night she fled Silverpine territory, the night she became a ghost, a wolf without a pack, a woman without a past. Now, standing in the fluorescent-lit break room of Morrison's Diner in Nowhere, Montana, that silence shattered. Heat erupted across her skin like wildfire. The mark, her mate mark, the one she'd convinced herself was just scar tissue, just a cruel reminder, pulsed with an energy that stole the breath from her lungs. The coffee mug slipped from her trembling hands, exploding against the linoleum in a spray of porcelain and dark liquid. "Celeste? You okay?" Marcus, the night cook, poked his head through the kitchen door. She couldn't answer. Every nerve ending in her body had ignited, singing with recognition, with hunger, with a primal awareness she'd buried so deep she'd forgotten it existed. Her wolf, dormant for years, stirred within her chest like something clawing its way out of a grave. "He's here." The impossible thought crystallized into certainty. 7 years of running, of hiding, of building a life from the ashes of her exile, all of it crumbling because somehow, impossibly, her mate had found her. Number. Not just her mate. The Alpha King. Celeste forced herself to breathe, forced her legs to carry her to the window overlooking the diner's parking lot. Her reflection stared back, dark circles under hazel eyes, auburn hair pulled into a messy bun, the face of a woman who'd learned to disappear. Behind her reflection, the Montana night stretched empty and star-scattered. Then the darkness moved. A black SUV pulled into the lot with predatory grace, followed by 2 more. Expensive vehicles that didn't belong in this forgotten highway town, the kind of convoy that announced power, that demanded submission. The driver's door of the lead vehicle opened, and Celeste's world tilted on its axis. Damien Ashford emerged like a storm given human form, 6'4" of raw dominance wrapped in a tailored black suit that cost more than she made in 6 months. 7 years had carved him into something sharper, more dangerous. Silver threaded through his dark hair now. His jaw was harder, but those eyes, God, those amber eyes that could strip a soul bare, they hadn't changed. They locked onto the diner window, onto her. The mark beneath her collarbone erupted in flames. Celeste ran. What happens when the past you've buried comes back wearing a crown? Don't miss Chapter 2 of this explosive werewolf romance. Drop a comment below if you felt that mark pulse too. The Reckoning. The back door of Morrison's Diner slammed against brick as Celeste burst into the alley, her shift manager's startled shout fading behind her. Her wolf clawed at her insides, desperate to shift, desperate to either run faster or turn back to him. She couldn't tell which instinct was stronger. Both terrified her equally. Her pickup truck sat 3 blocks away in the employee lot behind the hardware store. 3 blocks. She could make it. She'd survived worse than... "Running won't work this time, Celeste." His voice stopped her mid-stride, rich and commanding, carrying the weight of an alpha's authority that made her knees want to buckle. She spun around, back pressed against the cold brick wall, trapped between the dumpster and the man who'd haunted 7 years of nightmares and desperate, shameful dreams. Damien stood at the alley's entrance, backlit by streetlights that cast his shadow long and ominous across the pavement. He'd removed his suit jacket, rolled his sleeves to his forearms, a calculated casualness that somehow made him more threatening. 2 of his elite guards flanked him, but he raised a hand and they melted back into the darkness. This confrontation, apparently, would be private. "How did you find me?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt, though the mark on her chest burned so hot she was certain it glowed beneath her shirt. "Did you really think you could hide from me forever?" He moved closer, each step measured, predatory. 7 years, Celeste. 7 years you've denied our bond. There is no bond. The lie tasted like ash. You rejected me. Your father exiled me. I'm no one to you. I'm no one to anyone. Something dangerous flashed in his amber eyes. My father is dead. Has been for 3 years, and I never rejected you. I was forbidden from claiming you. There's a difference. The words hit like a physical blow. She'd convinced herself he'd wanted her gone, that her mixed bloodline, half pack wolf, half rogue, had disgusted him as much as it had disgusted his father. She'd built her entire exile on that foundation. Then why? She couldn't finish the question. Now, Celeste decided, lifting her chin. If I'm here, we do this right. Pride flickered in Damien's eyes. My fierce queen. The council room was exactly as she remembered, a circular chamber with a massive table carved from a single ancient oak, surrounded by high-backed chairs that had seated generations of Silver Pine leadership. 12 faces turned as they entered, expressions ranging from curious to openly hostile. Marcus Grayson sat at the table's far end, silver-haired and sharp-featured, radiating the confidence of a man who'd stood beside the throne for decades. When his gaze landed on Celeste, something cold and calculating moved behind his eyes. Alpha Ashford. He stood, the others following suit. We heard rumors of your discovery, but seeing it confirmed is quite surprising. Is it? Damien moved to the head of the table, positioning Celeste at his right hand, the Luna's place. I announced my intention to find my mate 3 years ago. My success should surprise no one. Of course. Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. Though perhaps if we'd known the mate in question was Celeste Thorne, we might have saved you considerable effort. I have trackers who've been searching for her for quite different reasons. The threat hung in the air like poison. Really? Celeste found her voice, refusing to cower. And what reasons would those be, Beta Grayson? His smile sharpened. There were irregularities in the treasury around the time of your departure. Questions about missing pack funds. Some suggested you might have answers. That's a lie. The accusation came from an unexpected source. A woman with steel-gray hair seated to Marcus's left. Elder Vera Ironwood, Celeste remembered, one of the few council members who'd shown her kindness before the exile. Marcus, we investigated those irregularities thoroughly. The discrepancies were traced to administrative errors, nothing more. Were they? Marcus's tone suggested otherwise. Enough. Damien's alpha command rolled through the room like thunder, forcing several wolves to their knees. Even Marcus swayed slightly. Celeste is here under my protection as my mate and your future Luna. Any accusations against her are accusations against me. Any threats toward her will be met with the full weight of my authority. He leaned forward, hands flat on the oak table. Am I absolutely clear? Silence. Then Vera Ironwood stood, moving around the table to stop before Celeste. For a heart-stopping moment, Celeste thought she'd reject her, spit at her feet, or challenge her right to stand here. Instead, the older woman dropped into a formal bow. "Welcome home, Luna." Celeste faces the pack that cast her out, but not everyone wants the mixed-blood mate as their queen. When old accusations resurface and new enemies emerge, how far will the Alpha King go to protect his chosen? Chapter 5 reveals the conspiracy that's been 7 years in the making. The conspiracy. The Luna's quarters were excessive, a suite of rooms overlooking the forest, furnished with luxury Celeste had never experienced even before her exile. King-sized bed with silk sheets, bathroom with a tub large enough for 2, a private balcony where the moon would rise directly overhead. It felt like a gilded cage. The closet has been stocked with appropriate clothing. Kira stood by the door, professional mask firmly in place. "Seamstresses are available if you require adjustments. The Alpha has requested you join him for dinner at 8. Requested or commanded? A ghost of a smile touched Kira's lips. "With you, Luna?" "I suspect it will always be a request." After Kira left, Celeste sank onto the bed, exhaustion crashing over her like a wave. The council meeting had been a minefield. Marcus Grayson's thinly veiled hostility, the divided loyalties among the elders, the weight of dozens of eyes judging whether a mixed-blood wolf was worthy of standing beside their king. Her mark pulsed, a steady reminder of Damien's presence somewhere in the compound. The mate bond had strengthened since their return to Silverpine, pulling taut between them like a rope she couldn't sever, even if she wanted to. Did she want to? The knock at her door came at 7:45, early, but she'd already changed into one of the simple dresses from the obscenely stocked closet. Damien stood in the hallway, changed into dark jeans and a fitted shirt that looked deliberately casual yet somehow made him more devastating. "You look beautiful." His eyes darkened as they traveled over her. "Though I preferred the defiant woman in diner uniform who told me to go to hell. Probably." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. When he opened it, moonstone gleamed against black silk, an intricate ring carved with wolf imagery, ancient and powerful. "This belonged to my mother." The Luna Queen's ring. It hasn't been worn since she died when I was 12. "Damien." 1 month. His voice dropped, rough and honest. "Come back to Silverpine with me for 1 month. Let me prove I can keep you safe. Let me prove that what we have is worth fighting for." He pulled the ring from the box, but didn't move to put it on her finger. "If after 30 days you still want to run, I'll let you go." "I'll call off Grayson. I'll give you the resources to disappear so thoroughly even I couldn't find you." "And if I refuse now?" Pain flickered across his features. "Then I'll post guards around this building, around your diner, around every place you go." "Because Grayson will find you eventually, and I refuse to attend your funeral before we've even had a real conversation." It wasn't a proposal. It was a challenge, a negotiation, and somehow that honesty was more compelling than any romantic declaration could have been. Celeste looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the impossible situation fate had created. 1 month, she heard herself say, but I'm not wearing that ring until I decide if I'm staying. And you're not sharing my bed until I say so. Damien's smile was pure wolf, victorious and hungry. Understood, my queen. The runaway mate agrees to 30 days with her Alpha King, but returning to Silverpine means facing the pack that exiled her and the enemies who want her dead. Chapter 4 brings them home to a territory on the brink of war. The Return. Silverpine territory materialized through the SUV's tinted windows like something from a fever dream. Vast forests giving way to a compound that straddled the line between rustic elegance and military fortress. Stone buildings climbed the mountainside, connected by covered walkways and guarded checkpoints. 7 years ago, Celeste had fled this place in darkness. Now she returned in daylight, seated beside a king. The convoy rolled to a stop before the main lodge, and tension coiled in her stomach like barbed wire. "They know I'm coming?" She kept her voice neutral, but her fingers twisted in her lap. Damien covered her restless hands with one of his own, the touch both reassuring and possessive. The pack knows their alpha has found his mate. The details of your previous departure remain known only to my inner circle. So they don't know I was exiled as tainted blood. You were never tainted. His grip tightened. My father was a bigot who feared change. His policies died with him. The passenger door opened before she could respond. A young woman with midnight black hair and sharp features stood waiting, her expression carefully neutral. Silver-ranked warrior, Celeste's wolf identified immediately, noting the confident stance and the blade hilted at her hip. Alpha. The woman inclined her head respectfully before her gaze slid to Celeste. Luna. The title sent a shock through Celeste's system. Luna. Queen. She was neither of those things. Not yet, maybe not ever. But the pack didn't know that. This is Kira Blackwood, head of my personal security. Damien stepped out and offered Celeste his hand. She hesitated only a moment before accepting it, letting him help her from the vehicle. The simple gesture felt monumental, public, acclaiming. Kira will be your primary guard during your adjustment period. Kira's expression remained professionally blank, but Celeste caught the flash of curiosity in her dark eyes. She was being evaluated, measured. Fair enough, Celeste was doing the same. The Luna's quarters are prepared, Kira reported, though there's been some discussion about the arrangement. What kind of discussion? Damien's voice dropped into Alpha Command, making several nearby wolves stiffen. Elder Marcus Grayson is in the council room with several senior pack members. They're requesting an immediate audience. Celeste felt Damien's entire body tense beside her. Of course. Marcus Grayson, the beta who'd been hunting her, who probably orchestrated her original exile, who undoubtedly had plans for the throne that didn't include a mixed-blood queen. Tell them I'll address the council tomorrow. Alpha, they're insisting, tomorrow. The word cracked like a whip. Then Damien turned to Celeste, his expression softening marginally. Unless you'd prefer to face them now? Get it over with? Part of her wanted to hide. The frightened girl she'd been 7 years ago would have cowered in her rooms, avoiding confrontation. But that girl was dead, killed by necessity and survival. Because I was an obedient son and a coward. Damien closed the remaining distance between them until she could feel the heat radiating from his body, until his scent, pine and smoke and winter storms, overwhelmed her senses. Because I let you walk away when every instinct I had screamed to follow. Because I've spent 3 years as Alpha King searching every forgotten corner of this country for a woman who didn't want to be found. His hand lifted slowly, giving her time to flinch away. When she didn't, his calloused fingers traced the neckline of her shirt, stopping just above where the mark burned beneath the fabric. The touch sent electricity skittering across her skin. "I can feel it," he whispered, his voice rough. "Your wolf. She's calling to mine. She's screaming for mine." "Stop!" But Celeste's protest came out breathless, needy, traitorous. "I've spent 1,000 nights imagining what I'd say when I found you. How I'd explain, apologize, beg if I had to." His thumb brushed against her jaw, tilting her face up to meet his gaze. "But now that you're here, now that I can touch you, all I can think about is how I'm never letting you go again. You don't own me. No." His smile was wolf-sharp, dangerous, devastating. "But we belong to each other. That mark on your chest, it's pulsing in time with mine. Calling, claiming. You can run to the ends of the earth, little wolf, and I will follow. Because you're not just my mate." He leaned in until his lips brushed the shell of her ear. "You're my queen. The Alpha King has found his runaway mate, but some bonds are more complicated than fate intended. Will Celeste surrender to destiny, or fight for the freedom she's built?" Chapter 3 brings revelations that change everything. The proposition. Celeste's apartment was a study in minimalism, a deliberate choice when you lived ready to disappear at a moment's notice. One room above the hardware store, furnished with garage sale finds and necessities. No photographs, no keepsakes. Nothing that said I exist here with any permanence. Damien stood in the center of it, looking absurdly out of place among her thrift store furniture and his $1,000 clothes, yet somehow he filled the space with an authority that made the walls feel smaller. "You can't stay here." His words weren't a request. Celeste locked the deadbolt behind them, a laughable gesture considering he could probably tear the door off its hinges, and moved to put the kitchen counter between them. Distance. She needed distance, or she'd do something stupid like touch him again. The phantom sensation of his thumb against her jaw still burned. "This is my home. This is a hideout." His gaze swept the sparse room with clinical assessment. "You've been living like a fugitive, Celeste. That ends now. You don't get to decide. My father's beta, Marcus Grayson, has been hunting you." The statement landed like a bomb in the quiet room. "Did you know that?" For 7 years, he's had trackers combing the country, convinced you stole something when you fled, convinced you're a threat. Ice flooded Celeste's veins. "I took nothing." "I am nothing. Why would he—" "Because you're my mate." Damien's jaw clenched, fury radiating off him in waves. "Because in his twisted mind, you're leverage." A weakness he can exploit to control the throne he believes should be his. She'd been careful, so careful. Changed her name, dyed her hair, never shifted where anyone might sense her wolf. 7 years of paranoia, and it still hadn't been enough. "Then I'll keep running." "To where?" He moved around the counter with liquid grace, and she backed up until her spine hit the refrigerator. "He has resources. Money. Loyal followers who believe the old king's vision of blood purity. You running alone makes you vulnerable. You staying here puts innocent people in crossfire. And going with you makes me what? A prisoner? My queen." He braced his hands on either side of her head, caging her in. "My equal, my protected. This close, the mate bond thrummed between them like a living thing. Her mark pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. She could hear it, strong and steady, calling to something primal in her chest. Her wolf whined, desperate to submit, to claim, to complete what fate had started 7 years ago. "You don't know me anymore," she whispered. "The girl you were forbidden to claim? She's gone. Good." His amber eyes searched her face with an intensity that stripped her bare. "Because I don't want that frightened girl who ran. I want the woman who survived 7 years alone, who built a life from nothing, who's strong enough to tell an Alpha King to go to hell." His lips curved into a dangerous smile. "I want the woman who's terrified of me, yet hasn't looked away once." Celeste's breath hitched. This is insane. That woman is still here. Celeste grabbed a shawl. "Just dressed differently." He offered his arm, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. They walked through torch-lit corridors in comfortable silence until Damien steered them away from the main dining hall. "I thought we were having dinner." "We are. Just not with an audience." He led her outside to a secluded garden courtyard she didn't remember from before. Strings of lights created a canopy overhead, and a small table had been set for two, surrounded by night-blooming jasmine that perfumed the air. "I remember you mentioned once that you'd never had a first date." Damien pulled out her chair. "Seemed like something we should rectify." The gesture was so unexpectedly thoughtful that Celeste felt her carefully constructed walls crack slightly. "You remember that?" "I said that 7 years ago." "I remember everything about you." He sat across from her, amber eyes intense in the fairy lights. "The way you used to hide books under your cot to read after lights out. How you volunteered for every dangerous patrol just to prove yourself. The sound you made when I first kissed you behind the training grounds, like you'd been holding your breath your entire life and finally remembered how to exhale." Heat flooded her cheeks. "Damien." "I spent 7 years remembering, Celeste. Let me." Dinner was simple but perfect. Grilled fish, roasted vegetables, warm bread. They talked carefully at first, dancing around the wounds between them, then gradually more honestly. He told her about the 3 years since his father's death, the challenges of reforming a pack built on outdated traditions. She told him about Montana, about learning to be alone, about the small freedoms she'd found in anonymity. They were clearing the plates when Kira materialized from the shadows, her expression grim. "Alpha. We have a situation." Damien was on his feet instantly. "What kind?" "There's been an incident at the north border. 3 rogues attempted to breach territory. They're claiming they have information about a plot against the Luna." Celeste's blood turned to ice. "Where are they now?" Damien's voice had shifted into pure Alpha authority. "Detained in the holding cells." But Alpha... Kira's gaze flicked to Celeste. "They're asking to speak only to her." The holding cells beneath the compound were stark concrete and silver-reinforced bars, designed to contain even the strongest wolves. 3 figures huddled in the far cell, dirty and malnourished, their eyes reflecting predator bright in the dim lighting. When they saw Celeste, the female among them stumbled forward. "Luna Celeste." Her voice was hoarse, desperate. "Thank the moon we found you in time." "Who are you?" Celeste demanded, though something about the woman's scent was familiar. "My name is River. I served in Silverpine's medical unit 7 years ago. Do you remember?" Memory crashed over Celeste, a kind young healer who'd treated her injuries after training, who'd brought her extra food when she was being hazed. River had been one of the few who'd shown her humanity. "I remember." "What are you doing here? You were exiled." We were all exiled. River gestured to her companions. Anyone who showed you kindness, who questioned the old Alpha's prejudices. Marcus Grayson made sure we disappeared quietly. Her hands gripped the bars. But we've been watching, waiting, and we discovered something about the night you fled, something you need to know. What? The treasury discrepancies Marcus accused you of? They were real, but you didn't steal anything. River's expression turned fierce. Marcus did. He embezzled PAC funds for years, building a private army of loyal wolves who believe in the old king's vision. When his scheme was about to be discovered, he pinned it on you, the perfect scapegoat. A mixed-blood wolf no one would defend. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Why are you telling me this now? Because Marcus has been planning for this moment since the old Alpha died. One of the male rogues spoke up, his voice rough. He knew Damien would eventually find you. He's been positioning his supporters, planting doubts, building the narrative that you're unfit to be Luna. When the time is right, he'll make his move, a challenge for the throne, while you're still unconfirmed, still vulnerable. Damien's growl reverberated through the cells. When? The full moon ceremony, River whispered. 4 days from now, when you present Celeste to the PAC for formal acceptance as Luna. He's planning to call for a vote of no confidence, and if the PAC rejects her, tradition says you must choose between your mate and your throne. Silence fell like a blade. Celeste felt the world tilting. She'd agreed to 1 month, to giving this impossible situation a chance, but she'd never considered she might be the weapon used to destroy the man she was just beginning to remember how to love. Then we fight. Damien's hand found hers, warm and steady. We expose him. We show the PAC exactly what kind of snake has been sleeping in their den. How? Celeste forced the word past the fear. He's had 7 years to prepare. We have 4 days. River pressed something through the bars. A small flash drive. We have proof. Financial records, communications, witness testimony from the wolves he exiled. Everything we've gathered over 7 years. Her eyes were fierce. We believed in you then, Luna. We're asking you to believe in us now. Help us take back our PAC. The conspiracy runs deeper than anyone knew, and the Alpha King's throne hangs in the balance. With only 4 days until the full moon ceremony, Celeste must choose between running again or fighting for the PAC that cast her out. Chapter 6 brings this explosive romance to its stunning conclusion. The full moon. The 4 days before the full moon passed in a blur of strategy and subterfuge. Damien's inner circle, including Kira, Elder Vera, and the exiled rogues, worked around the clock, building an ironclad case against Marcus Grayson. Financial forensics. Testimony. A paper trail that stretched back a decade. But evidence alone wouldn't be enough. PAC law demanded the Luna face her accusers before the full PAC under the moon's witness. A trial by judgment, they called it. A gauntlet, where any wolf could challenge her worthiness. Now, as moonlight flooded the ceremonial grounds, Celeste stood in the Luna's traditional white gown and wished she'd run when she had the chance. You don't have to do this. Damien had said the same thing 100 times over the past 4 days. He stood beside her now in the staging tent, magnificent in ceremonial robes that declared him Alpha King. We can exile Marcus, take the throne by force. The PAC will follow. They'd follow out of fear, not loyalty. Celeste adjusted the silver circlet in her hair, the Luna's crown, delicate and heavy all at once. You've spent 3 years trying to heal this pack. I won't let my presence tear that apart. Then let me stand with you out there. You know you can't. Pack law was clear. The Luna faced judgment alone, proving her strength independent of her mate. But I can feel you. She pressed her palm over the mark on her chest, which pulsed in rhythm with his. Through this, you'll be with me every second. His hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. If this goes wrong, if Marcus manages to turn the pack against you, I'm choosing you. The throne be damned. Damien. No. His thumb brushed her lips, silencing protest. I lost you once because I was too weak to fight for you. Never again. You are my mate, my queen, my choice. The pack will accept that, or they'll find a new alpha. Tears burned her eyes. 7 years ago, she'd fled believing she was worthless, disposable. Now this man, this king, was willing to sacrifice everything for her. I love you, she whispered. The first time she'd said it aloud. I don't know when it happened again, or maybe it never stopped, but I love you. His kiss was fierce and claiming, pouring 7 years of longing into the press of lips and the tangle of tongues. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Win tonight, he said against her mouth, and I'm making you wear my ring. No more trial periods, no more running. Promise? On my life. Kira appeared at the tent's entrance. Luna, it's time. The ceremonial grounds were a natural amphitheater carved into the mountainside, with hundreds of pack members arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. As Celeste emerged from the tent, a hush fell over the crowd. She walked alone down the torch-lit path, head high, refusing to show fear. Marcus Grayson waited on the platform, flanked by his supporters. His smile was predatory. Celeste Thorne. His voice carried through the night. You stand before Silverpine Pack to be judged worthy of the Luna's crown. But before we proceed, I believe the pack deserves to know exactly who you are. He pulled out a folder. 7 years ago, you fled this territory under suspicion of theft. You are mixed blood, born of a rogue mother and a pack father who abandoned his duties. You have no standing, no lineage, no... Liar. Elder Vera Ironwood's voice cut through Marcus's speech like a blade. She rose from her seat, moving to stand beside Celeste. Marcus Grayson, you stand accused of embezzlement, conspiracy, and bearing false witness against an innocent woman. Evidence of your crimes has been submitted to the Alpha King and will be presented to this assembly. Chaos erupted. Wolves on their feet shouting, demanding answers. Marcus's expression twisted into fury. This is a farce! A desperate attempt to tell the truth? River emerged from the crowd, flanked by the other exiled wolves. We have documentation of your crimes, Marcus. Financial records, communications with the rogues you hired to hunt Celeste, testimony from dozens of wolves you silenced. She held up the flash drive. 7 years of evidence. The word of exiles means nothing. Then let the moon decide. Celeste's voice rang clear and strong. She pulled the circlet from her hair and held it aloft. I claim my right to trial by combat. I'll face any wolf who challenges my worthiness, including you, Marcus Grayson. The crowd erupted again. Trial by combat was an ancient rite, rarely invoked, where the Luna proved her strength against any challenger. It was brutal, potentially deadly, and exactly what Celeste needed. Marcus's smile returned, sharp and confident. You'd challenge me? A mixed-blood female who's never won a ranked fight? I'm challenging any wolf who doubts I belong here. Celeste met his gaze steadily. Because unlike you, I'm not afraid of the truth. The moon chose that moment to crest the mountain peak, flooding the grounds with silver light. Celeste felt her wolf surge forward, stronger than it had been in 7 years, fed by the mate bond and righteous fury. She shifted. Her wolf form was smaller than Marcus's, leaner, built for speed over power. But when she howled her challenge to the night sky, the sound was pure dominance. Around the amphitheater, wolves responded, their calls building into a chorus. Marcus shifted and charged. The fight was vicious. He had strength and experience, but Celeste had spent 7 years surviving alone. She was faster, smarter, using his aggression against him. When he lunged, she dodged. When he expected retreat, she attacked. Her teeth found his shoulder, his leg, drawing blood and submission in equal measure. The crowd was screaming. Celeste couldn't tell if they cheered for her or against her. All she knew was the fight, the blood, the desperate need to prove she was worthy. Marcus rallied, throwing her against the platform with bone-crushing force. Pain exploded through her ribs, and for a moment she couldn't breathe. He loomed over her, jaw open for the killing bite. Damien's roar shattered the night. The Alpha King hadn't shifted, but his command rolled through the grounds like an earthquake, forcing every wolf to their knees, including Marcus. Enough! Damien strode onto the platform, fury radiating from every line of his body. Marcus Grayson, you are hereby stripped of rank and exiled for crimes against the pack. Guards, remove him. You can't! Marcus struggled against the guards who materialized to seize him. Pack law states the Luna must finish. Pack law states the Alpha's word is final. Elder Vera's voice was iron. And I believe every wolf here has seen enough to judge the Luna's worth. She turned to the crowd. Who stands with Celeste Thorne as your Luna Queen? Silence. Then River raised her hand, followed by Elder Vera, followed by Kira. One by one, wolves throughout the amphitheater rose, hands lifted, voices joining in acceptance. Not all, but enough. More than enough. Celeste shifted back to human form as Damien wrapped her in his cloak, pulling her against his chest. Through their bond, she felt his fear, his pride, his overwhelming relief. Never again, he growled into her hair. Never again do you face anything alone. Together, then. She looked up at him, this king who'd moved heaven and earth to find her. For however long we have. Forever. He pulled the Luna's ring from his pocket, the moonstone gleaming in the silver light. Marry me. Not because of the mate bond or pack politics, but because I choose you. I will always choose you. Yes. She didn't hesitate. Yes to forever. Yes to you. When he slid the ring onto her finger, the pack's howls shook the mountain. 3 months later, Celeste stood on the balcony of the Luna's quarters, no longer a cage but a home, watching the sun set over Silver Pine territory. Damien's arms circled her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. Regrets? He murmured. She thought about Montana, about the woman she'd been when she fled, about the 7 years of running that had led her back here, to this man, to this impossible second chance. Not a single one, The mark on her chest pulsed warm and steady, no longer a brand of shame, but a symbol of the bond that had saved them both. And as the full moon rose over the mountains, Celeste howled her joy to the night sky. She was home. The end. Thank you for joining Celeste and Damien's journey from exile to forever. Did their story capture your heart? Drop a comment sharing your favorite moment, and let me know what supernatural romance you'd like to see next. Don't forget to follow for more emotionally charged love stories that prove some bonds are worth fighting for.